If you're a Christian woman and you want to be married, for many of you, God is going to send you an amazing Christian man that's going to be your future husband. Your future husband is coming, but the person that just came to your mind when I said that is oftentimes not the person God is going to cause you to marry one day. So in this video, we're going to talk about 5 indications that your future husband is not the man that you thought he would be. Number 1, if you're stuck in singleness and you want to be married because you're waiting for this one particular man to pursue you, oftentimes this is a sign God is going to allow you to marry someone that you didn't expect. Along the journey towards marriage for many Christian single women, something happens that causes a delay in this season that is often unnecessary. So this scenario often looks like this. You meet a great Christian guy that checks all the boxes that you've wanted. There may even be some expressed interest, but somewhere along the way, his interest stalls out. Maybe he moves, he starts dating someone else, something happens where it just doesn't work. And so you got your hopes up for this one guy, and now you're waiting for him to come back into your life because you thought, hey, this is the right guy for me. Well, for some of you, it's certainly possible that that guy that you've been waiting for is really your future husband. For most women, that type of guy is really just causing a traffic jam in their life that they need to get out of. So how are you going to know if you should keep waiting for this guy that seems to be the perfect man for you, or if you should accept that this just isn't the one? Well, one great tip is to remember what qualities you're actually looking for in a husband. He might have many of those qualities, but he's missing the most important quality that I know you want in a husband, and that is love. Does he love you? If he's not showing love for you, this man does not have the qualities that you want in a man. The simple truth is that if a man gets to know you, has enough time to pursue you, but doesn't, that can only mean one thing. And this might seem too simplistic or it might seem harsh, but I want to just, lay this out as simply as I can. It means he doesn't like you enough to actually pursue you. Again, that may sound harsh, but it's best just to face the facts, because if he liked you enough, he would pursue you. So would you really want to be married to a man like this? A man who doesn't love you? Of course you wouldn't. Your future husband is going to love you. Number 2, if you have to reshape your list to receive the blessing God wants to give you, that's a strong sign God is going to allow you to marry a man that's not who you expected. Oftentimes, our list of requirements for our future spouse when we're single often become a list of barriers blocking us from the real person that God has for us. It's really a dangerous game to imagine a man that you don't actually know in reality and then expect God to create this man in the image that you've formed in your mind. Relationships are much easier when you learn to enjoy the person for who they are rather than being disappointed for who they're not. Now, I'm certainly not saying you should settle. If you would be unhappy with a man, then by all means, that is not the man God has for you. Marriage is an option for those who want it in the Bible. So you're not going to be forced to just settle for someone you're unhappy with. I'm just saying that sometimes you'll realize you are very happy with a certain man once you release your death grip on the expectations of what you thought your future husband was going to be. Certainly stick to the biblical requirements. Never compromise on those, but keep the rest of your list, so to speak, to a minimum. Of course, there's going to be some personal and subjective desires on that list, and that's healthy. But you might realize that when you learn to enjoy this man that God is sending into your life, and you stop holding on so tightly to the image you had of this imaginary person you thought you were going to be with, you might realize that you actually enjoy and love this real person far more than you could ever enjoy and love this fake person that you had created in your mind. Number 3, if the door suddenly shut, that you thought was going to be the door that led to your future marriage, that's a strong sign God does have a different man for you than you expected. Proverbs 13:12, hope deferred makes the heart sick, but a desire fulfilled is a tree of life. If that verse doesn't capture the essence of unrequited love, I don't really know what does. Now, it's certainly healthy to have a sadness, mourning even after this relationship doesn't work out that you hoped would. Hope deferred makes the heart sick. So that's appropriate to move on. However, after a healthy season of grieving so you can move on, you have to look at this as God is showing you a sign. This closed door is basically an arrow pointing you in a different direction. God, if he has called you to marriage, does have a man for you, and it's not that way. Number 4, if your lack of initial romantic interest in a man has actually allowed you to connect very deeply with this man on an emotional level, that is often a sign and an indication that God has a different man for you than you expected. For some people, there's a curious paradox when it comes to connecting with someone emotionally. Ironically, we want to connect most with the person we have the strongest romantic interest in. But paradoxically, that is the very person that we are least likely to connect with emotionally sometimes because of all the pre-existing pressure that you're putting on yourself before the relationship even starts. And for the same reason, emotional intimacy is often easiest with the person that you don't actually have a romantic interest in, because you lack these hidden motives that often get in the way with this other person, because there's no pressure on you to make this work, because all the natural ingredients for a healthy friendship are already present without the dynamics of romance kind of complicating this. You just end up naturally, oftentimes, connecting with this person that you don't initially have a romantic interest in. That doesn't happen for everybody. I'm not saying this paradox is a law that will always occur for everyone, but oftentimes this is what happens. Allow God to change your feelings. Sometimes in love, God didn't give you an initial romantic attraction to this man because that would have prevented you from forming this deep emotional connection that you now have. And because you now have this greater and more desirable emotional connection with this man, then God oftentimes gives you the romantic interest as well, which is needed for a relationship and marriage to then occur. When you look at the details of Ruth and Boaz, it's interesting that there was a time where Ruth knew that Boaz was her redeemer, but she stayed working in his field for a few months during the barley harvest. And it was only after that time of working in his field for a few months did she then take proactive steps to form a romantic relationship with this man. And number 5, if your views of marriage are maturing, that's a good indication that God may pair you with someone that you never would have thought you would have been paired with. Sometimes God will allow you to date a few different guys along the way who really have what you thought you wanted and needed, to show you that that's actually not what you needed and what you thought you wanted. There are guys who can be good friends to you, and there are guys who may be even good boyfriends for you. But once you start maturing in your understanding of marriage and what the Bible really requires, and you get into a real relationship with these certain people, you might realize that that person doesn't have what you actually want. So if God is maturing your views on what makes a healthy marriage, this also could mean that God is going to pair you with a man that in the past you never would have thought you would have wanted to be paired with. Here's a related video called 4 Marks of a Man Sent by God to Be a Blessing to You. I'm Mark from ApplyGodsWord.com. I hope this was helpful, and until next time, God bless.